Hello, Mario. Mario, can you hear me? Margarita Cesar.
Ernie,
Hi.
what's doing? Nobody's here?
No, Mario's here. Mario, we ready to start? Mario, can we start? Mario, can we start? Okay. So we're in Chaf Aleph, Yeshoimim Afridia, that we're talking about sounds that can be heard from one end of the world to the other, that when there is flooding, there's rain and from above and flooding from below, that's also very loud. Now, one of the sounds that was heard from the whole world was by Yitzias HaNeshama when somebody was passing away. Uboy Rabbon Rachman Neshama b'shar sheyatz min hagufu v'tlua. The Chachamim daven that should go away, because otherwise we'd be hearing this all the time as people died. So they daven that sound should go away. Tani Kavasid Rab Shila, that there's a baraisa to support that Kriyas HaGever means the braying of the rooster. Hayotze l'derech kodem Kriyas HaGever. Somebody goes off on the road to do business so early before the rooster, Damo Barocho. His life is in his hands. Rabbi Shua Omer Ad Sheyishne, he shouldn't go to work until the rooster repeats it. B'yeshomim Ad Sheyash, until he says it 3 times. Uveza Tarnagol Amru B'Tarnagol Benini, a middling rooster. Armei Ramarav B'Shash Yisrael Oim Regel Oimdim Tzfufin. When Klai Yisrael are making Aliyah Regel, there is a very big crowd. They're standing very crowded. However, Umishtachavim Ravachim, when they bow, all of a sudden there's a lot of space. And the Azar is filled with so many people, even the 11 amas behind the Kodesh Kodoshim is filled with people. So the Gemara doesn't understand what does this mean here. My comment. Even though it's so crowded that they're pushed to fill up every space, and oimdim tzfufin, so they're like packed like a sardine. But when they bow down, everybody has space to bow. And this is one of the 10 miracles that were told in Avos occurred in the Beis Hamikdash. It's not. Asar Nisim Nasu Beis Hamikdash. There were 10 Nisim in the Beis Hamikdash. Lo Ipila Isha Merech B'sar Kodesh. A woman never had a miscarriage because of a bad smell of rotting meat. That was Hegdish. V'lo Yisriach B'sar Kodesh Mo'ila. The Hegdish meat never became rotten. V'lo Nira Zvuv B'Beis HaMitbachayim. A fly was never seen in the butcher place. V'lo Ira Ker L'Kohen Gadol B'Yom Kippurim. A Kohen Gadol never became Tumas Keri on Yom Kippur. V'lo Nimsa Psul B'Oimer V'Shtei Lechem V'Lechem HaPanim. There was no invalidation through Tumah or other means of Psul, either by Minchas HaOimer, the Shtei Lechem, or Lechem HaPanim. Another miracle, Oimdim Tzfufim V'Shtachim Revachim. Even though the people stood crowded, when they bowed down, there was plenty of space. A snake and a scorpion never bit anybody in Yerushalayim. Nobody ever said to their friend, "Oh my God, it's so crowded in Yerushalayim, I won't be able to stay here." Afraid the Gemara Pasach b'Migdash v'Sim b'Yerushalayim. We're talking about Nisim in the Beis Hamikdash, not Yerushalayim. So Ikitarti Achronisa b'Migdash. There are two other Nisim in the Beis Hamikdash that we have to add. The Tanya. Ma'olam lo kibuk shamim eish shel atzem aracha. Even though the Mizbech was not covered, the rain never extinguished the flame of the Mizbeach. Number two, Oshan HaMaracha Filu Kol HaRuach HaShapalim Bos Menashas Bo Ein Mezizah So Mimkomo. The smoke of the Maracha, which went straight up, was never got moved by the winds. These are the only miracles. I'll show you other miracles. V'atani Rav Shmaya B'Kal Anvo Shivrei Klicheres Nivloin B'Mkoiman. That is, when they cook the chatas in a klicheres that was eaten, and then you have to break it because it absorbs the flavor, and you wouldn't be able to eat it with anything else because you can't eat it beyond one day. You'd have to break the kli, and it would get absorbed by the ground. You didn't have to throw it away. Mura v'nutza. This was parts of the bird that you had to tear out of the bird before you offered it as an olah. And dishun mizbech apnimi. And when you took the ashes of the inside mizbech v'dishna menorah and the ashes of the menorah, you dumped it in a place next to the mizbeach, nivloin b'mkoimon, they would be also absorbed by the ground. Now asks the Gemara, psulei tlasahavu, chashvina b'chad. So when you said the psula oimer shtei alechem alechem apanim, so those are really psulim. You counted them as three, but they're really only one. So apik treva ayel tre. So remove two and put these other two from the other brisa to make 10. So freit the Gemara yachi blui nami treavu. The things that absorb in the ground are also two types. Chashvinu b'chad, we should only consider them one, chasru lehu, and therefore will be one short. And for the Gemara, kanami achrisi, there's another nes, the Amar Avishur ben Levi. Nes gadol hayanasa b'lechem haponim. There was a miracle with the lechem haponim, siluko kisiduro. The lechem haponim was placed on the shulchan for 7 days. And it was steaming fresh when they put it on the lechem haponim. And when they removed it 7 days later, it was just as fresh. Shenemar lasum lechem choim biyomi lakcho. So now we have 10. Freit Gemara v'su leka. What? And there's no other miracles? I'll show you there's other miracles. V'amrav Levi, davar zeh masoros b'yadenim avosenu. We have a masora from our forefathers that mekom aron eino min amida. The aron was 10 amas wide. And then there's a masora that there were 10 amas on either side of the aron. But the whole area of the Kodesh was only 20 by 20. So how can you have 10 on 10 on? The measurement of the aron it's as if it doesn't exist there. The kruvim were also benes, the way they were hanging over was also 20 amas, the width. Therefore, the width of the goof of the crew themselves, because the wings occupied the whole area. So the goof of the bodies, it's as if they weren't there, similar to the Yarrow. So Freit Gemara, why don't we include these nisim? Nisim devroi kachashiv. Nisim that were seen by the public, we count. Nisi de gavoy, hidden nisim, like in the Kodesh Kodoshim, where only the Yom Kippur, only the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur could see it, like kachashiv. Freit the Gemara, if it's only public nisim, iachim lechem aponim nami nisi de gavoyu, lechem aponim is on the shulchan, which is inside the heichal, nobody can see that. And for the Gemara, lechem aponim nisi devroyu. But lechem aponim were also seen outside. Where do we see outside? The Reish Lakish, my dechsiv ala shulchan tahor. Understand? Tor michlal shu tamei. The Torah calls the shulchan Torah michlal that it could become tamei. How could it become tamei? Kli eitz asui lanachasu. If you have a large wooden armoire, like a china closet, so since it's not meant to move, it's not considered a kli. Because kli eitz asui lanachasu is makabel tumah. How can you say that the shulchan is tohar and tamei? The shulchan was carried on Yontif. They would take out the shulchan to sew the pilgrims from the oil of regalim. See how great HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves you. The placement, it was as fresh when the lechem upon him was placed as when it was removed. Shenemar, lasum lechem chom biyom ilachom. Freit more v'su leka. And what? There's no other miracles? I'll show you there's other miracles. V'amra v'ishaya b'shasha b'nashon beis hamikdash notabo kol minei magadim shel zav. He planted golden trees. V'hayim motzin perusim bizmanim, and they would produce golden fruit. Uchesharuach b'nashavas be'em noishri. The wind would blow through them, they would fall. Shenema yirash kalvanon piryo. Uchenish nitnesu nachrim leichel, when the goyim entered the base of Mikdash, Yavesh, it dried up. Shenema uferch levanon umlau. V'osid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lachzira. Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring that tree back. Shenemar paruach tifrach v'tagiel avkilat v'ranein kvod al vanon nitan la. So nisi dikvi loy kachashiv. Nisim that were present every day are not counted. Hasha asasachi. Our own Akruim Nami Nisi Dikvinin is also was present every day, so that's why they're not counted. Omar Mar. One of the miracles was the Oshan Amarocha was not blown by the winds. Freit Gemara, Umi have Oshan Bamarocha? Was there even smoke? Batanya. Chamisha Dvarim Nemru Be'eshel Marocha. 5 attributes were said about the fire on the grill. Revutza Ka'ari was like hung. The wood was lined up like a lion. Uvara kachama, was bright as the sun. So much that the heat, v'yesh mamash, you could feel it. Voichelas lachin kiveshim, it would burn up wet things like dry things. And the 5th thing, it didn't produce smoke. How could you tell me that the smoke wasn't moved by the wind? There's no smoke. So that's the fire that was started by the Kohanim. But the fire that came down from Shamayim, that's a different fire. The Tani V'nosum De'arna Kohen Eish L'Mizbeach, Aval Pi She'esh She'eret V'na Shamayim, even though the fire that consumes the korbanos come from Shamayim, Mitzvah Lavim and Adyoid. You still, the human beings should make a fire as well. Freit Gemara Revutza Ka'ari. So what do you mean it was like a lion? I saw the grill. It was like a dog, not a lion. So Loikasha come to Mikdash Rishon, come to Mikdash Sheni. Mikdash Rishon was like a lion. Mikdash Sheni was like a dog. Freit the Gemara, over Mikdash Sheni miavin. Did we even have the Eish Min HaShamayim in the Mikdash Sheni? We didn't. The Ertzabo the Ekove, the Karinon the Ikavdo with a hay. How come it's written without a hey? Ma'isha de mechusar hey. It's a hint. Elu chamisha dvarim shayu bein migdash rishon migdash sheni. There were 5 miraculous things that didn't exist in Bayis Sheni. Elu hein. Aron. There was no Aron because the Aron was nignaz by Yoshua Melech before Churban Bayis Rishon. The kaparas was nignaz with the Aron. Ukruvim, the Kruvim were also nignaz with the Aron. Then Eish didn't come in Hashemayim in Bayis Sheni. Shechina, there was no Shechina in Bayis Sheni. Baruch HaKodesh, there was no Nevuah. The Urim V'Tumim, there was no Urim V'Tumim. So Amri in Miyahave, but Tziyur L'Masayeh. It wasn't Migdash Sheni from Shemayim, but it didn't participate in the Streifas HaKarbonos. You would see it on the Marocha, but it didn't operate. Torah Bonon, since you talked about fire, the Gemara says Sheish Ishois Hein. There are 6 kinds of fires. There's a fire that consumes but doesn't consume fluid. There's a fire that consumes liquid but doesn't consume flammables. There's a fire that does both. There's a fire that's so hot that it burns up dry things like moist things like it does dry things. There's a fire that pushes away another fire. The final kind of fire consumes other fire. And we're going to give examples of each one of these 6. Fire that consumes dry things but not liquid, hadidan, that's our fire. Fire that consumes liquid but not solid things, that's fever. Like it'll dry up your liquids in your body. It doesn't really burn anything. What about a fire that's ocheles for shoyse? It consumes as well as drinks, Elio. By the Hara Carmel and the Nevi'ei Abal, if you remember, Elio poured water around the korbanos, and an Eish came down and it burnt up the korbanos and the water. So this kind of fire was a special fire. And then a fire that was so hot that it could burn up moist things like dry. That's the maracha, the Eish on the grill in the base of Mikdash. Yesh Eish doiche Eish de Gavriel. When the Malach Gavriel came down to save Chanana, Mishael, Vazariah, the Kivshana Eish, he actually pushed away the Eish with Eish. And then what's a Eish oicheles Eish? That's the Shechina. The Amar Hoshit Etzbo B'nei Musarfan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu can burn up Malachim. Malachim are made out of Eish, and he can burn up with his finger Malachim. Then the Mishnah said, Ashara Maracha, Afilu Kol Arucha Sheboilam Ein Mazizin Oisamim Koimoi. Any kind of wind wouldn't move it. At the end of the last day of Chag HaSukkos, everybody looks at the smoke of the Marach and they get signs. It's like Groundhog Day, February 2nd, where, if he sees a shadow, it's good for the farmers. If he doesn't, it's bad for the farmers. Same thing here. If there was a southern wind blowing the smoke northerly, the aniyim would be happy. There's going to be a lot of rain, and therefore perosin markivin. You wouldn't be able to store the peros long because it would be very ripe. They'd have to sell it very quickly, and the aniyim would benefit bad for the balabatim. Not the klape dorom. If the smoke was pushed south by a northern wind, the poor were sad, balabatim were happy, but there's not going to be a lot of rain, so the price of fruit's going to go up, so the balabatim are happy, and you can put them in a silo. Not the klape mizrach. If the smoke moved east, meaning there was a westerly wind, hakol smechim. Everybody's happy there because there, that's normal. You're going to have normal winds. You're going to have payros, and you can store them, and everybody's happy, including the aniyim. Klapi Ma'ariv, if it's an easterly wind blowing the smoke west, then I call out saving. Then that's a bad simon. Doesn't bring rain. It's going to be drought. It's going to be problems. The ozav asi kedikli vivdur lo hamivdur. Now, what if the smoke sort of bends like a palm tree? Oh, the smoke bends like a palm tree, but it doesn't scatter. So that's what it means in our Mishnah that the ruach didn't disturb it. Omar Mar. Klapi mizrach hakol smechin. When it goes east, everybody's happy. Klapi mar hakol atzevin. I'll show you a minu. I'll ask you a question. Mizrachis, an easterly wind is loylam yafeh, and maravis is loylam kosher. Just the opposite of what the Gemara says. And ruach tzfoinis, the northern winds, yafeh lechitin b'shashav yushlish, is good for wheat as long as it's grown at least a third. The kashel is zeisib bizman shein chointin. It's bad for olives when they're budding. Ruach droimis kosher, a southern wind is bad lechitin b'shashav yushlish, for wheat that have already brought a third. The yafel is zeisib bizman shein chointin is good for olives. The way to remember this is Shulchan is in the north, because that's where it was kept. Menorah Badoro. On the Shulchan was Lechem, which is made out of wheat, and the Menorah is Shemen, which is made out of Zaysi. Hamar b'didei v'amar b'didei. How can you? So our Gemara had the opposite of what the winds do. Depends. By Bnei Vavel, an easterly wind is good. In Eretz Yisrael, an easterly wind is bad. Adon Allah, Shivas Yomim, Adon Allah, Shivas Yomim, Adon Allah, Shivas Yomim. Okay, Yeshukach, everybody.
See you soon again.
And we will start Davi Shir in 6 minutes. See everybody soon.